What is up? You are listening to the Tasmanian Takeover, or maybe you're even watching us, which, kind of feel sorry for you looking at these two heads, but that's okay. I am Berto, your host, with my good co-host, JD. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, Burdo, considering the week we've had.
Yeah, look, I'm wearing blue today because I am a little blue because of it, but we'll get more into that in a moment. Hopefully you've had a much better week than the Jack Jumpers, but we'll talk all about that very soon. Of course, welcome to Tasmanian Takeover, your made by fans for fans, Tasmania JackJumpers podcast. And I really want to emphasize it. This podcast is made by fans for fans. We make no money out of this. This is just a passion project that has been brought together by the wonderful guys at the Basketball Fix. Do make sure you go and check out the Basketball Fix on all the social media channels and their fantastic website. Because, again, they're just passionate basketball fans who want to bring everything together about the NBL and the various different teams. And boy, is this podcast platform is blowing up in the fact that not only do we have Tasmanian Takeover, we've got our friends at the Hawks Hangout who Sam and I had a little bit of a slugfest before the Illawarra game. Maybe I should just eat my hat right now, but we'll get to that. We've got the Wildcat Rap, which, those boys keep carrying on about how they're number one. But, gentlemen, let's not kid ourselves here. We're the mighty ants. What can I say? We've actually got recently launched the Breakers Breakdown, which those boys had their first episode last week, and absolutely fantastic episode to
job.
Best it off. Yeah, they really did. And I believe I'm under, good knowledge, very good knowledge, that by the time you're listening to this, the King's Table, the Sydney Kings podcast, will have launched as well. So, look, this is probably a good opportunity. We all know that the Tasmanian JackJumper fans are maybe a little bit salty on the Sydney Kings, so it could be worth sneaking into that podcast and have a bit of a listen as well.
Yeah, I'll be tuning into that one and listening to them talk garbage about how they're the best in the league and whatnot. If there's one team that I can't stand, it's the Sydney Kings.
Yeah. Look, all right, this is where I blow my credibility, but I think I said it on the first episode. Look, I'll say it. There is still purple that runs through my vein being an ex-Sydney sider, but I am down here in Tassie. I'm the import. JD's the export going over to WA, but we're representing the Jack Jumpers no matter what. So there might still be a little bit of purple, but there's plenty of green here. Except for when you start to get into a back-to-back losses like we've just experienced, and then you might as well say that it's all frozen and I'm blue. But before we do start talking about that, I've got a bone to pick with you, JD.
Oh, yeah?
You wore that bloody jersey.
Do you know what? The amount of guilt I've had in this last week for bringing on my unlucky Devils jersey on the podcast. I apologize sincerely to all the fans about what all the turmoil I've caused by wearing that particular jersey on the podcast. I mentioned last week that my Devils jersey was an unlucky jersey, and every time I wear it to a game, we lose. Well, apparently that extends to podcasts. So that particular jersey has been retired from podcasts and games and will now only be used in weeks that the Jack Jumpers are not playing at the gym.
And I'd also like a formal written apology in triplicate before the end of the week, please and thank you.
You'll have it on your desk by close of business tomorrow. Oh, look, I'm starting to think that maybe it doesn't just extend to basketball, because I've got to tell you, I had an absolute stinker at the comedy club.
Well, I was just going to say, sucked in. And I mean, we've all due respect and, professional love, sucked in.
I had a set at the Leaderville Comedy Club over here in Perth last Saturday, and I tried some new material and that didn't work. I tried some tried and tested material that works every time. That didn't work. Obviously, everyone in the crowd was a Tasmania Takeover fan, and they saw my jersey on the podcast last week.
I'm starting to think that could have been the case. I was wondering if you wore it underneath your outfit, your attire for the evening, thinking it might have been good luck. And in actual fact, you should be shot for it.
I should say, if you are interested in coming along to my fringe show, I promise to put on a better performance than I did last Saturday, and I will not be wearing my my Tassie Devils jersey at that particular stand-up.
Fair enough. All right. Well, it has
Tropic Blunder Perth Fringe Festival. Shameless plug.
Oh, very good. Bit slow on the uptake there, mate. This is why his comedy failed, because timing, son. Timing.
Self-promotion is not my strong point.
Fair call. All right, so let's we'll go through the motions of things. This is probably our first episode where we've had to deal with a couple of losses. So, look, this is going to be a little bit hard for us. I suppose, it was quite easy to do the first 3 episodes when we were flying high and on that 8-run winning streak. We're going to have to man up and get through this, so we will. But before we do, let's get into some nests on notice. We'll talk a bit of news that's going on. And I suppose the biggest thing to talk about is the fact that during the Southeast Melbourne game, our roof started leaking. My State Bank Arena cracked a leak. Amazing. Absolutely. Like, if it was the timing was sensational of that. Let's talk about real timing, JD. Take note of this. We get an announcement to say that there's talk from Big Laz that the government and him are talking. That's Larry Kesselman, Big Laz, is talking to the state government about improving our facilities, about an upgrade, about, doing something that should have probably been done 2 seasons ago, but that's okay. No time like the present. And then the roof goes, hold my beer.
I'm reliably told that this is the first ever indoor basketball game that's ever been delayed due to rain.
Fair enough.
I made a hilarious joke in the group chat through the week about implementing the Duckworth-Lewis system, and obviously no one else is a cricket tragic like I am, because I got crickets on that joke.
You got crickets over a cricket joke.
Yeah. But yeah, like it raises the question: is the Derwent Entertainment Centre still suitable? Obviously, the article came out this week saying that Larry's been in Rockcliffe's ear to get an upgrade to the Derwent Entertainment Centre. They want to increase capacity by 40% and take it up to 6,000 seats. I wonder if that's just a band-aid. I know the Hobart Hurricanes get between 12 and 18,000 supporters along to a game at Bellarive. Maybe 6,000 is not enough.
Yeah, I sort of sit there and go, are we? I'm in 2 frames of mind. I really like and respect what the NBL did as far as not going out and building a brand new arena for us just for a team that may or may not take off.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that we did an upgrade to the deck, that we turned around, gave it the coat of paint, put the new fascia on, got the team up and running. Fantastic. But I think now there's a real opportunity where we can see that basketball, as it has been for quite some time, has absolutely exploded in the state. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm under no false illusion that at some point the bubble will burst. And I hope it doesn't burst tragically and that we end up, playing games to 2,000 people. Like, that would just be really poor. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I know for myself, I don't hold a season pass to the Jackies. I made the conscious decision way back in year 1 that I wouldn't buy a season pass because I travel so much for work. Therefore, I didn't want to have to go through the rigmarole of getting rid of the tickets or not. And this was pre-knowing that they were going to have the sell your tickets back, whatever shenanigans that is.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I could get asked to fly to the mainland for work, 48 hours notice potentially. So I didn't want to go down that path. But it's extremely difficult, as even with the supporter membership that I have for the JackJumpers, to get tickets outside of that early window you get at the start of the year. So if you don't know where you're going to be or whatever else, you've got to buy well into advance. Now that works out great for someone like myself. It's an easy sell. I sit there and go, right, when are the Jackies playing the Kings? And I'll buy up all the tickets. Lovely. But there was even a situation the other night where we were talking to Sam from the Hawks Hangout, and he's looking to come down here and for the Illawarra game on the 30th, and he's like, how do I go about getting tickets? And I knew straight away what the answer was because I'd been looking at it because it's around the week of my birthday. And I thought, I might just go and get a sneaky basketball game in for my birthday. $500 tickets were all that were left. Now, don't get me wrong, these are the courtside food and beverage package tickets. Fantastic, worth the $500. But I haven't got $500 just sitting in my back pocket off the whim of wanting to go. I want that ability to be able to just go and see my boys play whenever I want.
If we're honest about it, $500 seems about right for an opposition supporter to come along to my state bank arena. That seems about right for Sammy to have to pay that, I think.
Oh yeah. That's just tax. But no, in all seriousness, I think we do need to think about the stadium. And JD and I were talking offline today, and JD, I reckon you came up with a bit of a decent solution, but it crossed my mind, but I'd never really thought it through. And the fact that we're on the same wavelength, I think there might be some actual some get up and go in that. What was it, mate?
Look, stadium politics are obviously pretty red hot at the moment. I'd like to stay out of that side of it if I could, but we've had two proposals to the government for stadium locations in the CBD of Hobart, Mac Point 1 and Mac Point 2. The government are pretty hell-bent on going forward with Mac Point 1, and I can see why. That location is phenomenal. If there's a stadium there, that would be just outstanding for the state. But that still leaves the site for Mac Point 2 sitting there prime for let's say a 10,000 seat basketball indoor entertainment center, right there on the waterfront, a short walk from the CBD. Like, why aren't we talking to Paul Lennon about okay, maybe the footy isn't for you? Have we thought about an indoor stadium for the Jackies?
Hey, tell me, JD, and you might actually be able to offer more insights than I've even looked into, but if they're going to build, and obviously it's a few years off, but if they're going to build this huge stadium for the AFL, can it be multi-purpose? Is there any way that it can be utilised for both basketball and AFL and I suppose other codes as well to really maximise its use all year round?
So the answer to that is it is a multi-purpose stadium. It's been built with live music in mind. It's been built with like the classic example was to try and get Taylor Swift to the state, stuff like that. It can be used for soccer. It can be used for rugby. There's multifaceted. There won't be facilities for basketball necessarily, and there's probably not enough room at that site to be able to just tag on a basketball center. But there's plenty of room at the regatta grounds where we could have like imagine going to the Jackies in the afternoon one Saturday and then just a short walk to go see the Tassie Devils at the new AFL stadium. What a day that'd be. And then to the pubs afterwards.
The dream. You would be living the dream. You might actually come back over from WA, mate.
I would absolutely. I might even leave my son here.
All right. So, as I say, we're not going to get into the whole build a stadium, don't build a stadium conversation. This was just a bit of banter that we had behind the scenes. Obviously, the biggest thing we want, though, is to see that the home of the JackJumpers actually expands and that it's not, we're not fighting for scraps to get seats to a game, and we're not also sitting there having to plan our lives a year in advance to sit there and grab a ticket. What I would say is if you are sitting on a season pass and, you're unable to make the game, do the right thing and, release them or do whatever has to happen there, just so that it's all fair and equitable and everyone gets a chance, because there's nothing like being at My State. If you've never experienced it and you are a Jack Jumpers fan and you can get to My State, you got to get along. It is, you hear the commentators talk about it. I'll say, as someone who has gone to many metal concerts, you will not get anything louder, particularly when we're winning. And even when we're not winning, you know, you can tell that that's the reason why we are the sixth player on the court, because we really do get behind the players and give them that burst of energy. We must be like spinach to Popeye. All right. Color. Oh, absolutely. All right. So during the week, we also had the privilege of listening to a couple of fantastic interviews. One done by our man Josh Higgins. Had a conversation on the Basketball Fix with Craig Sword, and another which was done through what do they call that show?
The Huddle, it was called.
The Huddle, that's right, done by Pete Hooley with Sean McDonald, and they were fantastic interviews. We're not going to dissect them right now, but highly recommend you take a listen to those interviews, because for Craig Sword, it was fantastic just to hear a little bit more about, you know, what the assignment was coming into the Jack Jumpers, and, you know, how he's feeling about leaving. And spoiler, he's not unhappy. It sounds like he'd be more than happy to come back to the NBL and more than happy to work with the Jack Jumpers again, which sounds fantastic. And it just goes to show the culture of the Jack Jumpers and the fact that, you know, it really is building a great team and family environment. JD, what do you think of it?
I felt for Craig before the interview, and I felt for him even more after the interview. He spoke incredibly well. He was very candid. You got a really good sense of how it went down. He didn't get the minutes he was expecting, and he was probably stuck in a role that we were kind of covered for. So I really feel for him, and I hope he finds a way back in the NBL, and I hope he ends up back in the green and gets the 20 minutes a game that he was looking for to really show us what he's capable of.
Absolutely. And then, the interview between Pete Hooley and Sean McDonald, fantastic interview. Highly recommend taking a look at it. Look, I love Shawnee. I think he's a fantastic player. It's hard to believe that last season he was still a DP, and now, you know, anyone would think he's been playing with us. Well, not with us, playing in the NBL as a starting fiver for the longest time, because he's just one of those talented players that come along every so often, and you just know there's great things ahead of him. So hopefully we keep him, more importantly, not only with the Jack Jumpers, but in the NBL for some time, because he's got that potential to be a flight risk.
I got that sense a little bit, but he was a great example of how Tasmania is capable of attracting elite athletes and keeping them happy. He was so happy with the state, and he absolutely loved Hobart, and he didn't have any bad words to say about the entire state. It just goes to show, if you do things right, you can keep athletes in our little island.
Absolutely. All right, well, this is where we now have to get to the part of the show that I've probably been procrastinating about, and it's kind of funny. I've got my Look, I've got my procrastination shirt on today, but we've actually got to do this. So we've got to dissect the last couple of games as we talk Ants Attack. And the first game we've got to look at is the Southeast Melbourne game at My State Bank Arena on the 5th of January. Final score, 91-105 Southeast Way. Look, it wasn't a great game for us. I don't think anyone could argue that it just felt sloppy from the team. There were times I felt like, I joked in our group chat that we've got going on, that it was like they all had Vaseline on their hands, and keeping a hold of that ball just seemed to be mission impossible. Passes were just slipping out of hands. One could even say that maybe their hands were wet from trying to keep the water out of the arena. I don't know. What do you think, JD? What are your thoughts on that game?
Oh, it was un-JackJumper like. We were raving about their game against the Brisbane Bullets the week before, about how just tenacious and how much of a team effort it was. And then just even looking at the numbers, all of the effort indicators suggested that their heart just wasn't in the South Melbourne game. Our rebounds were as low as they've been all season, which Scott Roth keeps talking about. Turnovers, the amount, not just the amount of turnovers, but the times in the game that those turnovers happened.
Yeah, what do we have? Like something like 16 turnovers, which is starting
16.
to feel very, very much like the start of the season. There was a lot of turnover action then. Which we sort of started to get on top of that. So, and I think some of those turnovers really came from just the ball handling that I mentioned, like just letting things slip through their hands a little bit.
100%.
I will say the foul count was not in our favour by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I'm not going to get into ripping on refs or whatever else, because in all honesty, watching on TV, I'm going to sit there and say, I watch this game on TV as I watch most of the games. Camera angles are not always in your favour. What I will comment on though, is that looking at some of the fan pages and hearing the commentary on that, for those who are actually on the ground, and when I say on the ground, on those lower level areas of the arena, commenting that the foul seemed to be really one-sided. It's interesting. It's an interesting comment. And I think that then leads into the Illawarra Hawks game, which the Illawarra Hawks game, again, was another loss, 89-84, Hawks way. What can I say about this game was that at the start and almost throughout most of the game, it just felt like we weren't in it. What I will say was we were more competitive, and neither team seemed to be firing on all cylinders. Again, the group chat that I regularly refer to, the boys from the Hawks Hangout were involved in this as well. And even they were saying the Hawks don't feel like they're in it. I'd made the comment that we felt like something was off. Something felt off. There was still grit and grind there. And that's what I think kept us in it right up until the final minutes, and why, we only went down by 5. But it didn't feel like the game where we had it held by the short and curlies the whole time. And we've had games where we've lost, but still had it held by the short and curlies.
Yeah. We took more shots in that game than we have in any other game all season. We had 81 shots, and we stuck 33 of them. We couldn't really hit the side of a barn. It's interesting that the Illawarra Hawks had Pringles announced as their sponsor. Just a day after we put the call out. I don't know if you remember. Apparently,
you're welcome. Welcome, Hawks, man.
Apparently, the Sebastian Pringles, the CEO of Pringles, is a massive Tasmania Takeover fan, and he put the call out. But we were shooting it like when you try and get your hand in a Pringles can. It just wouldn't fit.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I wish we could just turn it upside down and bang it on the top. But anyway, that's what she said. Now, I mentioned as we started to dissect this, the foul count in the Southeast Melbourne game, and that this leads us into the Illawarra Hawks game, because, again, some of those fouls that were or weren't called were quite questionable. So much so that, without going, again, into ripping on the refs, there's a lot of discussion around whether or not Hickey should have been fouled. And, I mean, yes, it was a damn good block, but he also ran straight through JC at the time. Ran straight through JD, yeah.
I'm relatively new to basketball, but I was under the impression that spear tackles were not allowed. If they are, let us know, because it's going to be a great game if we're allowing just full frontal tackles. But that was outrageous. How can that not have been a foul?
Yeah, and look, we might be passing the hat around again for Roffy because the
so.
post game presser, that first 2 minutes, and the NBL have already gotten a hold of it. It'll certainly post it up on the NBL website. That he's not allowed to say anything, and it was very clear that he had a lot to say. I do find it interesting sometimes, though. Like, as a reporter, I get you've got to ask the hard questions and that, but there are obviously going to be questions you just shouldn't ask because you're just baiting someone to sit there and have to pay a fine or get sanctioned. So
I like what he did in the Southeast Melbourne game, where the journalist asked what he thought about the foul count, and he goes, "Oh, what do you think I think about the foul count?" And the journalist said, "I think it was very one-sided," and he just said, "I'm glad you said that."
that was such a parent move. That's such a dad move, when the kids come up to you, "Can I have this? What do you think? Do you think you should be able to have that?" What I will say, speaking about the presses, was it was really nice to hear the comments that Roth made about our mate Terra, Ruben Tarangi. He was on his 350th game. What an absolute achievement by any standard. It really is. To suit up for 350 games, that's fantastic. But what was interesting, and I wasn't aware of this, so, I try and follow who we signed pretty closely in the lead up to the season. But in signing Tarangi, and this was a similar situation for Deng as well, when contacted by the Jackies, Tarangi didn't have a job. He was actually going into the season with no team making any sort of play for him. And to think that people were sitting on him. Now, admittedly, there had been a couple of games there early on where it could have been questionable. Was he a good signing, not a good signing? But that could have been said for most of the team. And now he's really quite instrumental in a lot of our plays, and he's up there shooting, and he's up there on defense, and he is just, I couldn't imagine the team without him, to be honest with you. And it's exactly the same as Deng. I mean, Deng made the comments last season when we won the championship, but he was the forgotten one. Well, he's not forgotten anymore.
No. Imagine, wouldn't the Cairns Taipans love someone like Majuk Deng to be playing for them at the moment?
Oh, wouldn't they? And no, they can't have him.
Well, they can't have him back because that's where he came from. They put him on the scrap heap.
Oh, I know. And trust me, they're not having him back. Bugger it. Too bad, too sad. They come sniffing around here.
Congratulations to Ruben the Terror. 350 games at 30 years old. He's just mind-blowing. He's still got 5 or 6 good years in him.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and hopefully that's 5 or 6 good years with the Jackies. And I think what it comes down to is, as he said, he really loved coming into the team, the system, the culture, the whole lot. You'll hear I regularly refer to it. Look, in my professional life, it's management, it's team building, it's all that I do. I absolutely love the fact that Roth gets up there and he goes, "I'm not much of a coach, but he's a damn good leader." He's got his assistant coaches to do all the stats and the numbers and the plays and all that sort of jazz. It's bloody clear that he can sit there and get those guys on the same page. And believe you me, once you put multiple different personalities in a room, it's like herding cats. Yeah. So the fact that team, and you can see it, there is a certain mateship within that team that often you will not find anywhere. And I suppose this is a really good opportunity to then lead into our predictions, because the first team we come up against, I questioned what the mateship's like, what the glue is like in the team, being the Adelaide 36ers. So we take on the Adelaide 36ers at my state. It's a home game on the 10th of January. So by the time you're listening to this, hopefully you've had time to hear us, and if we get it wrong, we're sorry. But what do you reckon, JD? How do you reckon we're going to go up against the 36ers, given their scenario at the moment?
It's it's hard to put your finger on where they're at. I see this as a bit of a danger game for the Jack Jumpers, because the Adelaide 36ers have been under all sorts of scrutiny this year. Comments from the players, comments from the coaches, suspensions. They've been through the ringer, but when you look at it, their list is phenomenal. They've got two of the best imports in the league in Montrezl Harrell and Kendrick Davis. They've just beat two of the top four teams in Melbourne United and the Sydney Kings. And then you've got people behind like DJ Vasiljevic, who just loves playing against the Jack Jumpers. I don't know if you remember the 21-22 championship, but I bloody do.
Oh, I do too. And there, DJ, I think, still has us marked on a calendar somewhere and potentially throwing darts at it on a regular basis. Yeah, look, you make a very good point about the fact that they've beaten the Kings and Melbourne United. I challenge that by saying, though, what Kings and what United showed up, because neither team have been very consistent of late.
That's true.
So I sit there and go, okay, look, this is a challenging one. And I've been, in the lead up to this discussion, I've been really, I said to JD, I said, I'm not even putting my predictions down until a couple of hours before we have this chat, because I really did not know which way to go. I mean, I was absolutely convinced we were going to run through Southeast Melbourne and it was going to be the Hawks who were going to clean us up. And instead, Southeast Melbourne cleaned us up and the Hawks just cleaned us up. I'm going to give this one to the Adelaide 36ers because... No, I'm not. Sorry. I went to say that, but I'm sitting there thinking, no, I'm going to stick to what I'm thinking. I'm giving it to the Jack Jumpers because I really do feel deep down inside that whilst the Adelaide 36ers are starting to come together as a unit, we are a unit. And there's a couple of things playing in our favour. We're coming off the back of 2 losses. We're going to hate that. We're going to be hungry. We're going to have been back at home for a couple of days. I'm sure that they've all been given the Roth roasting. They've been out of Kingsborough Sports, running drills like you wouldn't believe.
Suicides? Is that the one they do in basketball where they just run back and forth for a training session?
Whatever it may be. I think Roffy also likes to get them down on the oval running laps as well. Nice. One of the podcasts I listened to with Mags. But I think there is a real chance that being in the home court on the back of the 2 losses, we're going to be hungry to actually redeem ourselves. And the fact that, yes, there is going to be a challenge in the fact that Montrez and look, the whole team is quite a loaded team, but they're just not firing like a well-oiled machine.
They've got too many alpha males, don't they? Not enough glue guys.
And that's what I'm worried about. And then you start to hear about some of the dramas going on behind the scenes with management. It sounds like the coach isn't quite gluing with the boys and the boys aren't gluing with the coach. And I really do think that this could be where we will come out on top. Now, we are still without Mags, though. So I think what we're going to have to do, though, is really be conscious of the fact that our paintwork is going to have to be tight. And we're going to have to make sure that anytime DJ is getting his eye in, that someone's got a hand in his face.
Yep.
All right, so that's me. I'm sending the yes, give him the doctor. The doctor needs to be clinical and be that real pest we know he can be. All right, so I'm giving it to the JJs. Who are you giving it to, JD?
Yeah, I think the My State Bank Arena influence. It's not going to be easy, but I think at home the JJs are going to be too good. But it's going to be tougher than we think it is. And I will say one thing: I hope the crowd really boos Montrezl Harrell, a bit like they do with Lawala Chul when he comes down and carries on. I want the nest to be hostile. If we can do that, and the doctor can give Vasiljevic a bath, then I think we'll go all right.
Anti-Army assemble. but do it respectfully, please. We want to
100%.
remain keeping that that we're known for being a respectful fan base. So let's do that, but by God, let's make it difficult for them. All right, then on the 12th, oh God, this worries me. We back up and we do Perth Wildcats at my state. Now, I still haven't put my prediction down for this one. I'm really concerned because here's the thing. I know we can beat the Wildcats, but we don't have Mags. It's a short turnaround between playing the 36ers, who I think is going to challenge us. And Cotton is shooting the bloody lights out. Now, we have proven we know how to shut Cotton down, but I'm concerned that in shutting Cotton down, are we going to leave ourselves open in the paint? Thoughts, JD?
The Wildcats, I've been looking forward to reviewing these guys for quite a long time. Obviously, being over here in Western Australia, I know the Wildcats and their fans quite well. I always get the sense that they want to start some sort of rivalry with the JackJumpers. But to have a rivalry, there needs to be some sort of competition, and we always wipe the floor with them every time we play them. So, I really want the rivalry, but the Wildcats are just making it a bit easy for us at the moment. RAC Arena is fantastic. It's very intimidating as an opposition fan going in there, a sea of red. But their fans, a bit like the JackJumper fans, are always really well behaved and really respectful. So, yeah, look, they're on a bit of a streak. They've won 4 of the last 5. The last 2 have been against New Zealand, and then they played Adelaide before that. Before Adelaide were good. I think it was the Wildcats game that sparked all the talks at Adelaide. If it wasn't that game, it was the one before. Like you said, there's Bryce Cotton, who's possibly the best player the league's ever seen, but he's never really given us that many issues in the past by memory. I think there might have been a buzzer beater once against us a year or 2 ago. But other than that, Shawnee Mack and the Doctor have sort of had his number. So if they can do what they do and make it very hard for him, which is probably harder than easier said than done, I should say. The one that worries me is Keanu Pinder. Now I know
Zorro.
this season, Zorro. I know this season he's been built like Tarzan and playing a bit like Jane, but he always saves his best game of the year for us for some reason, Keanu. And without Mags, that is potentially where we could be exposed.
That is a real
Fabs
concern.
Needs to be on.
Fabs, you need to be a brick wall. And look, Fabs in the Illawarra game, well, he was our man of the game. He pulled a double-double with 11, 10, and 6, which is fantastic. I should also say that game, Shawnee Mack had an absolute ball terror too with 19, 3, and 2. So, look, I think Fabs, from a defensive point of view, can really be that brick wall that Keanu's going to have to try and run through. And I think backed up by Hummer and Deng, we might stand a chance. But more importantly, we would need to make sure that we're even, keeping on Cotton, keeping on, is it Pepper? Or am I thinking?
I want to talk about Pepper.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, he may be, but it's the Sergeant. I call him Sergeant Pepper, which is a Beatles album. He might be my favourite player outside of the JackJumpers because I love Pepper the same reason I loved Weeksy, because he looks like he rocked up on a Thursday night and the Wildcats were like, "Hey, we're one short. Can you play with us?" I love him. He doesn't look like he should be good, and he is good. And I think what it is, I think we need more dad bods in the NBL. We need more players with dad bods. We need more players that look like me. We've got a couple. DJ Vasiljevic is built like a popcorn machine, and he is amazing. These are the players I want to see.
I love it. Yeah, no, it is Pepper I'm thinking of. And yeah, if Cotton's got a hand in his face, we need to be watching for Pepper as well, particularly if we end up with the two of them firing. It could be quite damaging to us. Look, I'm going to stay loyal to the team. I'm going to give it to the Jackies, but I'm prepared to eat my hat. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if we win, the Perth Kitty Cats can take their ball of wool and go home. And if we lose, I'm just going to disappear from the group chat for a little while because I know Josh and Adam are going to turn around and rip me a new one. JD, who are you going with for that game?
I'm going with the Jackies based purely on history. We're a bit like South Melbourne are our bogey team. I feel like we're the Wildcats bogey team. I will echo your sentiments on how good it is to have Fabs back in form. I was calling him the Stormtrooper earlier on in the season because his accuracy was like he was come from the Stormtrooper Academy. But it is so good to see him back slamming down dunks and blocking out people and getting double-doubles. It's amazing.
He's proven himself to be Mr. Fantastic again, the Swiss Army knife.
He's great. And got a bit of a dad bod on him as well, might I say.
Although, to be fair, I've got to give you credit. From when we first signed him to now, he's looking
down ripped.
A bit. Yeah, God, yes. All right.
Yeah, Jack Jumpers for me.
Jack Jumpers for JD, Jack Jumpers for me, and hopefully I'm not eating my hat and we're not copying it in the group chat after the 12th. All right, well, we do get to the part of the show that we do like doing, and that is the Ant Army Antics, where we start to look at what's going on around the Ant Army and the Jack Jumper team. And, of course, we've got our McVeigh watch. He's had a couple of fantastic games. Look, on the second, they play the Rio Grande, I should get my words right. Valley Vipers played the Salt Lake City Stars and got a win. His stats were 21, 8, and 2. On the fourth, they played the Salt Lake City Stars again. His stats were 22, 6, and 3. So really consistent here with his scoring.
Solid.
And today he actually played. Was it this? Yeah, it was today. Yeah. He played the Oklahoma City Thunder, and whilst they took a loss, he still managed to pull off 14, 5, and 3. So, look, there's been a lot of discussion around, is he going to thrive over in the US? Certainly, he may not have gotten a heap of minutes in the NBA, but what's going on with him in the G League? He's over there just making his name. So as much as I'd like to see McVeigh all day back here in Tassie, can't fault the man for going over there and getting some big numbers.
He looks great. I subscribed to his not his LinkedIn. We're not business partners. I subscribed to his Instagram the other day, and he's got a motivational speaking Instagram page, and it's great. It's just all his inspirational quotes and things he's learned along the way. So if you're into that sort of thing, it's definitely worth liking. I think it's Jack McTray on Instagram.
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen quite a bit of his stuff, and yeah, very motivational. All right, well, to finish off the show, look, Roth's done it again. I really do love listening to Scotty in the presses, and once again, he pretty much used his line, "We'll be where we'll be," when referring to where we end up in the season. I mean, we're now on the home stretch before finals. I think we are going to make it into the 6, and fantastic. That's plans for the 4th season running. But what I do love is the fact that the Jackies really aren't focused on the ladder. They leave that to the fans and to the analysis that goes on around the NBL.
The wannabe podcast hosts.
Yeah, they want to be a podcast host like us. Actually, to be honest with you, it's one of the things I do really like about the Jackies is the fact that it's all about just playing the best they can. And yes, I get it's a professional sport, and this is an unpopular opinion that, just let them do what they've got to do. And, you know, they're representing us. And as long as they're representing us being Tasmania the best they can, then what more could we ask for? But I really do believe that's why we've had the success. Because when you're just focused on getting in there each and every day and doing the best you can and not worrying about, because that ladder, with only 10 teams, it changes so freaking often. It is so fluid. It's like watching the ocean. More importantly, is just making sure you do the best you can so that the ladder can't shift you out. What do you reckon, JD? Am I off the mark here, mate? Is it that unpopular opinion? Am I talking shit?
No, I think you're right. I think there's an old saying in sport. It's never as good or as bad as you think it is. And I think Rothy summed that up perfectly. We've just gone on an 8-win run. The wheels have started wobbling, but that doesn't mean they've fallen off. So I love that mentality. We get up, we go again. We've got 2 more games this week. Let's look out the front window rather than the back window.
Absolutely. And look, let's face it, we started off the season pretty rough. We went on an 8-game winning streak, and here we are. So I think there really is something to be said about that. And look at our podcast. You know, we started off maybe a little bit rough, and hopefully we've gotten a bit better along the way. At least we have some nice backdrops anyway.
That's right. There's a nice logo.
And on that note, we are going to wrap up the Tasmanian Takeover for another week. Do make sure you head over to the socials for the basketball fix and follow, like, subscribe. Do head over to our mini site, beacons.ai Tasmanian Takeover, where all the shows are on there to make it easy to access, whether you want it on Apple, whether you want it on Spotify, whether you want it on YouTube. We've got you covered. There's also a great article that JD wrote. He got a little bit creative and wrote up his first article. You'll probably see a few more of those coming up. Me, I'm too lazy to do them. I prefer
look for
to
spelling
get on a
mistakes.
microphone. Yeah, look for the spelling mistakes. We would like to see submissions with the big red line. And yeah, please do remember, this is a fan for fan podcast. So we want to hear from you. We want your support. We really do want you to get behind this podcast and help us take it to the next level. We do it out of passion. We do it out of love for the Jack Jumpers. And more importantly, we do it just to get in the ears of other fans. So do tune in each and every week. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll catch you next week. Catch you next week, JD.
See you next week.
Bye for now.